You may be feeling disheartened or I guess like disgruntled or something like that due to a realization that you recently had. The realization was coming through as like you may be noticing that people treat you better when you are like meaner to them, and not necessarily being disrespectful. It's just that like I feel like maybe you have been doing a lot of work to pull yourself out of like a people pleasing tendency, but it's not even that you were doing that because you care so much about being liked or anything. I think that like maybe you got a bad rep in the past for like, I don't know, maybe you have just been always like been very blunt, or like, I don't know, it's almost like you could have like always told you like tell it like it is, and people maybe when you were growing up would like label you as a bully or just like mean or something like that, and I think that really bothered you because that's never been your intention or something like that. So it's giving that like you didn't necessarily start being nice or whatever because you want people to like you. It's just that like maybe you tried really hard for people to not think that you were mean or rude or something. And you may have had this like realization, or you are developing this uh understanding, or you're just noticing that like people take advantage of you, or like they perceive you as being weak when you are too nice to them. And like it's like you are perpetually misunderstood in that way, to where like to the point where like you may have like a visceral, almost like hot knife, like knives, like pricking you all over, reaction to someone being like, oh my god, you're so nice. Like when people say that to you now, you may register that as like an insult or something. I get that you are open to being like kind when it is warranted, but you don't want to be someone who's just like frivolously nice. So I'm getting that like, again, being called nice is like you're registering it as an insult right now, because you're equating that to as being prone to and almost deserving of disrespect in some way. And also you may have this understanding of people who are just nice as being fake or something like that. It's inauthentic. And you may be recognizing that like you were trying really hard to come across as like not intimidating to people in some way. So it's almost like, you know, you could have been like working on this, like trying to be more authentic, but I think that like you may naturally have a resting sort of like stoic or bee face or whatever the version of that for men are is, or whatever. But it's like you may have been trying to found yourself like masking your intimidation factor or something like that. Like you want to come across as like you maybe like went through a phase of wanting to come across as like unassuming or like soft or something like that, you know? Like you when you pass people on the street, you don't want them to be afraid of you. Maybe you went through a phase of that. And I'm getting that you are coming out of that because it's like there's this like irritation about the fact that you notice that your life is literally easier when you don't mask as being too nice or more palatable for people or something. And it's weird because people in your past could have been like, oh, your attitude is like this and your attitude is like that, but you may notice right now that when you do kind of like slip up, and you may have been perceiving this as like, oh, I'm revealing my unhealed self, or I'm showing up as my unhealed self or something like that when you let your attitude out. But I'm getting that like something may have happened recently that shows you, when you do show up a little like, if you feel kind of irritable and you show up as like cold and like mean mug people, not on purpose, but like you don't try to be pleasant and you don't try to appear as pleasant, then people like you more. And people are, they, I don't know, it's something like it's just like this could apply to like, so if you're a feminine, this could be like you notice that men, like, I don't know, or just masculine energies, again, gender doesn't really matter, right? But like the energy, okay? But you may notice that like you were trying to be nice to the people that you had crushes on or were interested in, because you were like, okay, well, this is how I show them that I like them, right? You know, and then they have been perceiving that as you chasing them, and that's been like a turn off or not as like interesting to them. And then it's like as soon as you show that like side of you that's sort of like cold and like shitty and like pissed off about that, like almost like not gonna like label you as anything, but people externally may like perceive it or have called you like a bitch in that energy or whatever. when you act that way towards people that like you were interested in, they like you more, and that may be getting on your nerves. And similarly for this seems more of like a masculine or like oh, I guess it applies to the masculines too, never mind. But I am getting this is mainly for feminine energies because like it is more I think that like there's more cultural or societal pressure for women or like just feminine energies in general to present as like soft or dainty. Like I'm not gonna claim to know anything about the culture there, but like it reminds me of how that like there's that thing about like a bunch of like women in Atlanta like make their voices very high pitched and they like use that baby voice and stuff like that because they think it's attractive or whatever. And so it's like we're encouraged to show up in that flowery energy, and we're taught that that's what true femininity is or whatever. But you know I don't know, it's almost like you being in a more like, and I hate these like terms because they've been so bastardized or whatever and like overstated, but like a darker feminine energy feels more authentic to you, and like it is received better when you just like act out of that energy. And I think that maybe you thought that in order to attract the things and individuals or whatever that you desired to have in your life, you needed to show up in that like softer energy, like you needed to force it or whatever. But it's to the point where like you have to understand your value, and that like show up in the energy that feels the most authentic to you. Literally like F what anybody else thinks. And like if somebody has the capability to pull that soft energy out of you, then it's fine to show up that way, right? Like I feel like that part of you exists, that light pink flowery side of you exists, but don't just like give that to people freely because that's draining you, right? And you should be in the receiving energy to where like if people want that side of you, then they should have to like actually deserve it and earn it, if that makes sense. And it's not about like being manipulative or whatever. It's just like it's more manipulative to present yourself like as flowery and like overly pleasant just because you think that's what will make this person like stay in your life or like treat you well, because that mentality may be attracting the wrong type of people in your life anyway. Like you showing up that way and showing up inauthentically is attracting the people who like will feed off of that energy like maliciously. You need somebody who cares enough and like has the resolve or whatever and like sees your value enough to not be scared away by a naturally intimidating energy that you may show up in, and like they'll put in the work to sort of like actually develop and form a safe space that like will encourage you naturally to show up in a more soft energy, I guess. But yeah, I would say that like, so if this is applying to you, don't feel there may be a bit of like what's the one where it's like not like a misanthropy, like when you just kind of like are feeling a little resentful towards all of humanity, not just like one of the genders or whatever. It's just like overall you're kind of like irritated with people, having this realization that people do receive you better when you're like meaner to them. I would say just like treat it as, show up in the ways that you feel is authentic for you to show up. And if that repels certain people from you, they were meant to be repelled from you, and it will attract the people that you are meant to attract and that will actually be in alignment with your truest self. So don't feel like you need to fake smile, you know, don't worry about like, and also this could apply to masculines because I'm getting that like if you're somebody who, again, you don't want to be the guy who like people are afraid to walk past on the sidewalk, like F those people. If they want to be afraid of you, let them be afraid of you, because who's meant for you. Obviously don't do anything that's like unsafe or that will like draw unnecessary attention to you, because depending on who you are, that can literally be dangerous or whatever. So I understand that in certain situations masking like that is necessary for like your safety and health. So but when it comes to like interpersonal things, with just like your peers, stop feeling like you need to put on your customer service voice with those people. If people like, if you naturally have a more like flat affect, don't feel like you need to change that just to make people like you, because you're just going to attract people that you don't even like in the first place.